Today, we're going to take a deep dive into the life of one of the most electrifying Pathfinder mains the Apex Legends community has ever seen. On the surface, Caution might look like your average dedicated gamer who streams hours on end, competes in high-stakes tournaments, and of course, pulls off some amazing, insane plays. But there is much more to this player that you would never imagine. We're going to start this story from the very beginning, when Caution was still figuring out his path in life and his parents wanted him to pursue college and a career outside of gaming.
2008 to like 2013, those were like the prime years of like competing and like playing. And then after that, I took like a big break from gaming. Tried doing the whole real life shit, you know, like pick a major and try to do all that and just step away from gaming.
Okay. Go in depth on everything. Like if you, during that period, was that sort of a thing that you felt was forced on you? That's what everybody was supposed to do, go into, you know, college and get a job?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like that was back when like streaming wasn't a career. So like what the was I gonna do? You know, like back then, that was when you played for the love of it. Not that people don't today, but that was more, you know, you hopped on without a thought of like, I'm gonna make this my career. It was just, I love this shit. Yeah, it was like, you know, having parents, especially my dad, who wanted the best for me in an old-fashioned sense. You know, I tried my best to do that. So I went to school for like audio engineering. For a while, I really thought I wanted to be an audio engineer, but until I got an internship and dipped my feet in, I was like, this is not what I thought. I picture like working with like great artists and like making music, but then it turned out I'm working in a place in Philly, random artists coming off the street making the worst songs ever, which, you know, I mean, you got to start somewhere, but it just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And after dipping my feet in that pool, I was like, I don't really like this. I was just kind of lost.
There unfortunately comes a point in everybody's journey where they lose a close family member, and it absolutely changes life as it was before. In Caution's case, it was his grandmother.
And then I remember there was a point where like things took a turn. It was like I lived in New Jersey, and that's where my mom lived, and my dad was like close by. So it was like hometown. And one day my grandmom died. And just out of nowhere, my mom was like, I'm moving to Florida. And I like literally a day after that. And I was just like, okay, I'm moving to Florida in like a week. And I was just like, what? Like, what? Why? She's like, I just can't be around here. You know, my mom died. Like, and it was tough because like my mom being divorced, she doesn't have anybody. And she also like, you know, had like, she's overcome it, but she had a long history of like alcoholism. And for me, it was like, I can't let her move down to Florida by herself and trust that she'll be okay. Mm-hmm. So I had like a week. I was just like, all right, fuck it. I'm coming to Florida with you. I just didn't want her to be completely isolated on her own. That's like, that I just would not have liked that. So so just moved down to Florida. And at this point, I wasn't even streaming. I was just playing games to more so escape life. You know, like I just wasn't happy, but whatever.
Most of the time when parents hear that you want to spend time gaming instead of actually going into the quote-unquote real world and working, they would laugh at you or highly doubt your ability to succeed. Not Caution's mom, though. She was different.
I was in, like I said, I moved to Florida with my mom, right? At this point, I sold my Xbox because I went through like a really tough period. And for me, like in order to change my life, I was like, I need to get rid of all video games. I just need to focus on other shit. I'll never forget, I was like, you know, working on music and stuff. And my mom came in and she was like, Ninja just played Fortnite with Drake. I just saw it on the news. Isn't that crazy? And I was like, what? Like, she's like, yeah, like he was streaming and like playing games, like, you know, like the games you used to play. Like, why don't you do that? And I was like, I mean, I guess I could. I didn't know. Like, you know, at this point I was like staying out of the loop, like focusing on my life. Yep. And she was like, yeah, like, she's like, how about this? I'll get you your first PC and you just pay me back. And I was just like, all right, that's cool. Like at this point I was a little hesitant still, but yeah, and it was like perfect timing. I started off on console playing Overwatch, and then a couple months later Apex came out, and so I just like naturally fell in love with that game, but I was playing it on console. That's just how it started, honestly. Got into streaming a couple months before, and then Apex dropped a couple months after. It was just perfect.
That's a very unique situation there, because I feel like a lot of parents just want their kids to go to college and, you know, get a job, like an office job or something like that, stable. That's great that your mom bought you a PC like that.
Yeah, that's my dad. My dad, very old school entrepreneur, built, you know, from the mud. Like, yeah. My dad is still like that.
My dad's the same way. Yep.
Right. And it's like, I tell him, you know, oh, I hit this goal, or I've, you know, this many views. And he's like, okay, well, how much money is that?
Yes.
You know?
Yes. 100%.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah. And it's so like part of you in the back of your mind is like, you want to get to a point where you're like, okay, watch this. And then you show him, you know, how much you're making. And like, so then they can like be more, you want them on board, you know?
Yeah.
But my mom's more of like, believes in me to the point of like blind faith. It doesn't matter what I'm interested in. She thinks I can do it.
It's very clear by pick rates in Apex to me that players will flock to characters that are simpler than others. At the time when Apex was in its very early stages, Wraith was obviously a very popular character, and so was Lifeline. But not too many people played Pathfinder because of how much of a learning curve he required to get insanely good with him.
I've always been a very competitive person, and my mentality has been, I'll be better than you because I'll work harder than you. That's why I've always played characters like Genji and Pathfinder. It's like, those are characters that if you put in more time, then it's worth it. You know, it's not a pick up and play. It's a sit in the range and grind. I love that aspect of, like, I never felt like I was naturally talented, but I always feel like, you know, when people went to sleep, I would work harder than they would. And I feel like Pathfinder was kind of that. Even just a couple hours in the range, you could do things that other people can't. And I love that.
Okay, is there anybody that you looked up to in the beginning that played Pathfinder that made you want to play him, or were you just kind of messing around with kind of the hardest characters?
Not so much in Idle on the road of Pathfinder. Like, I was even playing him on controller before like movement was a thing. You know, but I mean, if we're talking about at least people that had that kind of role, once I moved to PC, it was definitely Asu and Lyric were two people I looked up to heavy.
Yeah, the movement squad, for sure.
Movement, yeah, just fluidity. Like, it was just, the way they played was just like sexy. You know, it's like you can play MK and be cracked, but you still don't look as fluid as they look.
Yeah,
it's like a different style.
Movement is insanely popular on YouTube, as you've seen, probably multiple people blowing up on.
If you just put your character and then with movement in it, you're guaranteed at least 10 more views.
Yeah,
at least.
Now, there came a point in Caution's journey where, of course, he felt like he was good enough to make it as a streamer on Twitch. The only problem is that a lot of people think it happens overnight, not saying Caution did, but in reality, it takes many, many years of hard work to get your feet off the ground.
This gets actually really deep for me because I feel like through the journey of streaming, it's changed my life in the course of like what I believe in. If I never streamed, I probably would have been stuck inside of like a shell, because early on, I was one of the most passionate people. I could put in more hours than anybody. I was streaming 7 days a week, doing like 12 to 14 hour streams. It didn't feel like a grind. Like, I loved it that much, you know, even with 5 viewers. It was almost like back then I even had more faith in myself than I do now. It was like back then I was like, every follower is going to feel like family, you know, every sub is going to feel like it changed my life. And back then I was so hungry and passionate and I wanted to make it, you know, it was my everything. So yeah, that was early on. It was like, I feel like that's how I blew up in a sense, was like, the luxury of getting into a game early cannot be overlooked ever. For streamers out there, if you hop into Apex like a couple years into it, you could be amazing. I know so many content creators who are so, like, their personality is off the charts, you know? But the fact that they got into Apex and it late really hurts them. I feel like that was a huge luxury of mine. And that's what got me my teeth into the community. I was just there from day one, and that played a big part for me.
Was there any break that you remember, like one certain stream where like something crazy happened and then all of a sudden you started to gain momentum?
Oh, there was a couple. Like there's levels to it, right? Like you could get one raid and that changes your life, but just a little bit. There was like a couple. Okay, so my first big raid ever was in Nice Wig. I was on Kings Canyon in a building by Bunker, and he raided me. And I remember at this point I was looking up to him heavy. It makes me emotional just thinking about it, because back then getting a big raid, even 50 to 70 people, like that would make my week. But getting a raid from Nice Wig, I actually cried. You know, and like being someone who, I feel like it's hard to make me cry on stream now, which sucks to say. Like the fact that I could get emotional over my first fat raid, but like nowadays it's like I'm just thankful.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it hits different. Like I almost miss that feeling of like how emotional it made me. But yeah, it was a Nice Wig raid for a couple thousand. I went from going live and having like 10 to 20 people at most to I was getting like 50 to sit. Like I would turn on stream and people would be there instantly. That feeling, I still remember at one point, like I said, the passion back then. I remember heading home to stream, and in my car, I literally screamed at the top of my lungs for no reason. I was so hyped just to know that I was about to turn the live stream on, and there was going to be like 30 people there already hitting emotes within like the first minute. The way that felt, that first turn in the corner, was crazy.
That's how you know you're making a dent finally after all that hard work. That's probably why it hits so much different than, I feel like the further you get into it, you're still obviously very thankful, like you were saying, but there's an enormous amount of pressure that you put on yourself, even if anybody else isn't, to consistently grow every single day. like if your numbers drop, I know some people take it deeper than what it is with numbers, but if your numbers drop, that will spiral some people compared to when you're first growing. You got nothing to lose. You're trying to prove everybody wrong, basically.
Yep, and it hits different. It's like back then too, it was like you get 5 subs in a stream and you're emotional.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's like nowadays you get 5 subs in a stream and you're kind of like, what did I do wrong? Or like, why are things down today? And and it's like that thought in itself like hurts. Like thinking, why am I like that now? I kind of want the old me back to where I felt that way about the little things.
Then, of course, I had to ask him the question about my favorite subject on earth, the YouTube game. Caution's YouTube journey started out a little bit slow, just like everybody else's, but something tells me he is on the right track to start getting more and more views very soon.
Dude, okay, so for me, it's like, I love gaming, so when I first went into it, it wasn't even like anything except this is what I love, so I'm gonna do what I love. Like, back then, I didn't know how to edit. I didn't know how to do anything. Like, I didn't know except how to play games well. So that's why it was natural for me. And like that more rookie-ish, like when you first start, you don't understand the game at all. It's like you're so short-sighted, and I didn't realize how important other platforms were. So for me, it was just as simple as, hop on stream and just grow that and just do what I love. That was the whole reason why I stayed away from content. But then, the more you grow, the more you realize it's more important to grow on other platforms than Twitch.
Oh, absolutely. To funnel it into Twitch.
Yeah, that's where you get your number. Like, unless a game first comes out, like when it first comes out, you want to grind Twitch and content on other platforms. But once a game is settled in and it already has like faces, your ticket in is just in other platforms.
Yeah, you're fighting that much harder to get seen because there's already an established audience in that game.
And your YouTube community is loyal as if they want to hit the sub button and the noti button and they love your content, they will follow you to other platforms.
Yeah.
Versus people who come through on a Twitch follow. It's way more lighthearted than a sub on YouTube.
So I want to know your YouTube experience of...
Oh, man.
I just was looking at scrolling through your Twitter, and you said you posted over 200 videos before that fade video actually popped off. We'll get to that fade video in a minute, but let's start with, were you feeling kind of down on yourself with all the YouTube posts not blowing up, or what was that process like? I want to hear that.
Ups and downs, bro. So when I first started, it was very nonchalant here and there, and also didn't understand the YouTube game.
What were you posting in the beginning?
I was just posting gameplay and a couple tutorial. Like, I even had a tutorial on there from YouTube or from console. I didn't have much of a direction. It was me throwing shit at the wall. I feel like something I fight with sometimes is I have a lot of integrity and I take on a lot of responsibility, and then other times I don't. I feel like that's the hardest part about being your own entrepreneur in this content world, is like no one's telling you to get up and work on videos every day. Or no one cares or even checks if you do it every week. So there were times and spurts where I wasn't putting in as much effort as I would have liked. Mm-hmm. And no one really knows if you half-ass a video except for yourself. There will be moments in it, and you could have put in more time or done more, at least for me. And that was something I always struggled with early on. So it was like kind of all around. But then once I started to grow on TikTok, I realized the importance of other platforms, and it gave me confidence. So I started posting more and more on YouTube here and there. But I had one moment that was like very defining for me. So I was focusing on TikTok, the Pathfinders. Mm-hmm. And then Chicken Man, which I know you know him.
Yeah,
Chicken Man reached out to me out of nowhere and took me on and was like, bro, I think you could blow up on YouTube. No one's really doing the Pathfinder shit. Like, here's the plan. And he basically got me on that whole Jenks Moose Chicken Man wave of like posting every day.
Okay.
And just grinding out content with some homies and posting every day. So this was last season, and I did it for like 2 months. Literally, I streamed 7 hours, like 7-ish hours.
This was last season, you're saying?
Yeah.
This season was recently.
Yeah. So recently was when I really took on like a big grind. Like, so before that, it was more, maybe once a week, maybe twice a month, but I was posting over my career. But then last season was when I took on the 1 video a day challenge. And that was one of the hardest things I've ever done. I was like, I have so much respect for people who do that, because it's just so much work to stream and get quality content, turn that into a video, make a thumbnail, post it, and do that, and then do it again the next day. I did that for, I think, like 2 months. And it taught me so much about editing, about viewer retention. It just taught me about like thumbnails, titles. I feel like I learned so much in that 2 months that even though I stopped doing the daily, like just putting yourself in the water and like learning how to swim is like the best thing do. That's what I did. And I learned quickly. I was like, something creators need to ask themselves, like, even if it's the right recipe, I was like, okay, if I go viral tomorrow, am I still going to be able to pump out videos 7 times a week? And I was like, no, I'll be miserable. Even if I make it, what version of making it is it if I don't enjoy it? I have to enjoy it to an extent. So I was like, that I can't do 7 days a week, 6 days a week. Like, I'm just going to tone it back, have some quality. And that was when the Fade video was coming out. So it was like, it worked. Like, I learned so much about editing, self-taught editor. For anyone out there, you don't have to outsource an editor. In the beginning, please. YouTube has everything you need. When I was doing the video a day, I was watching YouTube tutorials on thumbnails religiously. So like that even taught me how to make thumbnails. Please understand that everything you need to know is on YouTube. You could learn anything you want to do, whether it's how to change a tire or make a great thumbnail. No excuses, just type it in. So yeah, that's what I did. And I learned about viewer retention, how to edit, and then it was just like the perfect storm when the Fade video came.
This is making me happy having you talk about this, because this is something that every YouTube creator goes through, and I don't think they talk about it. There is so much endless research on, like, I can't even tell you how many hours, thumbnails, editing techniques, catching people's attention within the first certain number of seconds in the video. Like, there's so much that people don't understand. They say, oh, you can just record and you press the upload button. That is not going to work.
No.
And a lot of people, like, when they're first starting out, the thing that I see that they do wrong is post stream highlights on YouTube. Yeah. That is not going to work unless you are massive. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Recent tweet about this that, I feel like everyone needs to have a level of self-awareness and think about any sport in the world, right? Are people watching professionals and D1 college players play? Or do they watch Division 2, Division 3 and high school highlights? It's like, no. If you're not a pro player, if you're not a top pred, chances are people do not give a shit about your highlights. Now, post your highlights, be proud of it, but understand that you have to add another element to your content in order to be successful, unless you're the best at what you do.
That's the 0.1% that we're talking about.
Yeah. And I see so many people just post their best clips. And like I said, please be proud of them. Never stop posting them. But understand, in a term of any other sport, are you going to watch a Division 3 player's, end of season highlights? Or are you going to watch LeBron James highlights if they're next to each other? Like, let's be real. Add your own personality to it. Let people relate to you. And then they'll watch whatever you post.
Absolutely. I think the highlights, obviously, you still post them, but you can incorporate them in different ways. Like, use that content more wisely than you're just throwing it out there basically unorganized. You can make it into a story and still have all the same clips while getting a message across.
Now, everyone's eventual success in life, whether it's streaming, YouTube videos, or normal offline jobs, comes with a wave of struggles, and Caution's situation was no different from this.
I feel like as content creators, it's hard to ride a fine line of being super transparent and also giving people hope. It's tough. There's so many different struggles. I remember before I started, right before I started streaming, I was the most lost I've ever been in life. Like, I was at a point where I didn't care about my health. I was literally at a point where I was drinking. I don't know if you ever had a 5-hour energy, but I was drinking 2 or 3 of those a day. And I knew how bad they were for me, but I literally told myself, I'm I don't give a shit. If it's bad and if I get a heart attack, it's whatever. I was at a point in my life where I just did not care. I think that just comes with not having goals, not having ambition, and just being lost. You have to find something that's worth fighting for, and that'll give you a reason to wake up. So that was the first struggle I had. It was a 2-year long. When I first moved to Florida, I was off the grid, bro. I didn't talk to any of my friends at home. I still remember this to this day. I played in a broken computer chair. I was missing a wheel. So I had a makeshift one. So I was slanted to the side playing, which actually fucked up my hip. So I played every day doing nothing with my life offline, with some friends who didn't know what I was going through. Basically in my room doing nothing. And it got so bad that after 2 years and we moved, that I couldn't really walk or run because I had such a bad hip displacement from playing in that stupid fucking chair.
Oh god.
And that made me realize dude, I'm just pathetic right now. I need to get my life together. So then it just started as slow as remember going to a parking lot near my new apartment and just walking around doing laps just to make sure I get the strength back in my legs. It was bad. It's a very scary slope when you don't have people around, you don't know what you want to do with your life. So that was like the first struggle I had. And then, man, after that, I think a big part of me relies on external validation. That plays a big part of my life. And I didn't realize that until I started getting more of it. You know, for me, it was always like, oh, I can't wait to be a bigger streamer. I can't wait to make it, you know? And then you reach a point where you have videos go viral and eventually they stop affecting you the way that they used to. You know, it's like, I used to have a video get 500 views and I picture 500 people in a room. I'm like, dude, that's crazy. You know, and then fast forward years, I have videos hit millions of views on TikTok and now they don't affect me the same. Like it doesn't add that much joy.
It's almost like a bad addiction. It's like you're addicted to getting more and more and you're never going to be satisfied with the result no matter what.
Right. And you know, and it's like that first time you take a sip of coffee, you know, it feels amazing, but then you get used to that cup of coffee as time goes on. It doesn't hit the same. And that's what I realized about myself was like, I put so much happiness, my own joy into results and things that are outside of myself that, you know, once I got it, I stopped becoming happy. Like it felt like my sense of like where I find joy was just gone. I feel like that's a journey I've been on in the past year of my life, year and a half, is like trying to find things that make me happy outside of success. Because it's like once you have a taste of it and you realize that that's not where your happiness lies, you're like, well, where the does it lie? Like, where do I find this shit? You know, it's like, it's not in a sub count, not in views, although they still feel great and you practice gratitude. But I feel like that's been an ongoing battle for me lately.
I have to say, after talking with Caution for over an hour, I can really tell that he is nothing but a genuine guy and he wants to help others better themselves. We talked about so many different things during this session, but one that stood out to me was his love for philanthropy and competitive Apex.
Something I'm very passionate about is philanthropy. And I've even had like thoughts of like, I want to get to a point where I'm big enough to where I could do like a huge charity stream for different things. Let's say beach cleanup, make a ton of money for that, and then fly out, do a vlog, go to like a beach cleanup charity and like make a vlog of like a day in the life of that, and then also present them with a big fat check that we got from our charity subathon for that, not subathon, but that, that donathon for that charity, and present them with that. So like not only have a stream with the games that we play to like raise awareness and money, but then also go out, live a day in it, feel like I had an impact, and then let all the viewers and community see us present our money to them. It's like, I feel like that comes full circle. You understand, what they go through in a day, how it helps, and just
you're still talking about with Apex, correct?
Yeah, I would love to do that with Apex.
That would be a banger of a video if you could pull it off correct. Like if you structure it correctly, have you playing in the subathon in the beginning and then at the end, finishing it off with a day in the life and donating, that would be a crazy video.
Good. And then the beautiful thing is like you'll never run out of charities and things you could do. You could change that to like clean water for people in different places, Flint, Michigan, or you could even travel to another country and help them get wells, or it's like, and the feeling you get from helping others, at least for me, that's where I've noticed like the external validation, the feeling I get of helping people is probably the most authentic joy I've had. Like after a charity stream, that's when I feel the most proud and best about myself. And, even if that's kind of like selfish of saying like, oh, helping others makes me feel good, like it's a win-win regardless.
Absolutely. That's something that you need to further pursue then, absolutely, sooner rather than later, because if that's where your joy's coming from, take advantage of it.
It's also hard though, like at my size, this is something else that I think people need to realize and understand. Like, having views and being partner or like being in a place where they quote unquote look up to, there's always levels. I, as someone who's averaged around 100 viewers on Twitch, been blowing up on different platforms, I still am like, I don't like to say this out loud because I feel like it's changing, but like I've been struggling financially for a long time. And especially, it's funny how life works. It's like life has my back, but right before this Nick Merckx tournament, the TDM one, after I paid my rent, I was going to be down to less than $100 in my bank account. And that does not include that I had to pay utilities. I was going to do a subathon just to stay afloat. And then I get second place in Nick Merckx tournament and get 8K, which was fucking crazy.
Well, that's
considering how many
absolute blessing.
How many teams are in that? Like Jen Burton, Imperial Howe, every single pro that you could think of was in that. And the team I was on got second. You just got to trust the process. It was like, it's crazy. Yeah, I would love to do that charity stuff now, but it's tough because it's like you also have to pay for travel. Yeah. I'd have to get vlogging equipment. It's like...
That's where you could use... We'd categorize both of us as like medium size. It would be a lot tougher for us to get like a huge sponsorship, but
If you were to reach out to some sponsors and say that's what you wanted to do, I'm guaranteeing you that a good amount of them would reach back and give you a sizable amount of money.
You're talking about as far as like a charitable philanthropy stream?
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing?
Like if you're trying to donate all the money that you're getting, that's a lot different from you just asking like, hey, can you send me $1,000 because I need it or something like that. You could just make money off of that video instead of actually needing their sponsor money.
Right. And that would be the most fulfilling thing. I feel like as a streamer, that would give me more of a reason to wake up than just trying to be a top comp team. Like, you know, there's more helping people that don't have the necessities and basics is, I feel like, a must. Like even just clean water, you know, we take that for granted. It's crazy.
Oh yeah.
It's fucking crazy. But yeah, that's just something I've always thought about. I need to put it into action. A lot of things I always put off, but just stop doing that.
That would definitely be a wise venture for you, I think, and also separate you from a lot of other people in your community. That would be a great way if you're late into a community doing something like that.
Yeah.
Which is not what anybody else is doing. Look at all the Apex creators. Nobody's doing that. So
dude, and I mean, I don't want to throw shade at anybody, but it's frustrating to see. I'm proud of it. I've raised over $10,000 for charities in like the past 2 years. But like, if I was a bigger streamer, I would be doing even more charities. Like the amount of shit you could raise money for and help is just, you know, and I don't want to put that on them. They're not bad people, but it's like, I just wish some people would step up to the plate more with more of a size, and, you know, and make a bigger impact. There's
certain athletes that, you know, they're making so much fucking money and then they're not doing any charity work whatsoever. Just
it's
very,
just
I don't know about that.
But, you know, it doesn't, I don't want to paint them as bad people. You know, it's like everyone's different.
Oh, yeah.
I've just, like I said, from my mom, like how you said your dad's strict, your mom's like, I've got that from my mom. Is like, you know, on holidays, she'd go give cash to the trash people outside, you know, on like every holiday. Like, it's just always been that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my mom will like give jackets to the homeless as my dad would walk by and not even look at them, you know? So it's like, I definitely have more of my mom's traits as far as empathy. Yeah, one story that I remember, the first big raid, I talk about nice wigs, but I got a raid from Asu one time, and I'll never fucking forget it. I was like 12 hours in a stream. I couldn't sleep, so I popped Z-Quil, which is like, you know, helps you fall asleep. I took some Z-Quil, and I was going to stream until I got tired. After I took the Z-Quil, I got raided by Asu for like 5,000, 10,000 people. I forget what it was. It was like, I think it was like 7 something.
Yeah, you weren't tired after that.
Dude, I went to the bathroom, and I threw up the Z-Quil. I was like, I am not missing this opportunity. So I literally put my fingers down my throat and threw up the Z-Quil and streamed until I couldn't stream anymore. Something that happens as a streamer, you have to treat every day as something that you can get better at. So especially when you're smaller, I feel like you do a great job of like catering to the people in your stream, getting to know them. Take advantage of each day of getting better. And then when you get those opportunities, more people will stick around. Just always be consistent, keep bettering like the content you make. Don't just be complacent, and more people will stick around. Also, from big raids, it is for a lot of small streamers don't realize this, it's very natural that people keep leaving and leaving and leaving. Like, it's not you, it's not your fault, it's just the way that raids are. So if your view count keeps going down after raids, it's just the way it is. After people's favorite show is over, a lot of times they go to bed, they switch to a different channel they like. It's not your fault. So don't get discouraged from that.
Now, I just have one ask for you guys. Please go over and check out Caution on all of his socials and end up hitting that like button. It's really going to help the video out and, of course, drive more traffic over to him.